So, myself and my research team, we have a long-term ecological research program in the Antarctic to try and understand the behavior of these whales, their relationship to the environment, how they are adjusting to rapidly changing environmental change, as well as commercial harvest in the last 100 years, and basically trying to get a grip on what it means to be a whale in the Antarctic and what the threats are to your existence now and how the animals are coping. We do it through a number of methods. We utilize a variety of platforms and scientific data collection processes. So, for example, we deploy suction cup tags on animals that last for about 24 hours a day that measure in very great detail the underwater movement of the animals. And we can use those data to tell us about the depth that the animals are feeding, how many times a day they're actually feeding, what the energetic cost is of that event. Then we also deploy satellite tags on these whales that will last for weeks to months, and those will give us the location of the animal several times a day, and we can use that to infer more seasonal changes in the behavior of the animals. Where do they go in January? Where do they go in February? And how do these change throughout the season when they're in the Antarctic? And at the same time as we deploy these tags, we oftentimes measure features of their environment, like the amount of krill. The things that these whales are down there largely for is to feed. And so understanding the amount of food that they take in and how their movements and behavior relates to where their food is and how the krill is behaving is a critical thing that we need to do. And then one of the other things that we're doing more recently is we collect a small skin and blubber biopsy sample from a couple hundred animals a year. This allows us to see how many males and females are in the population. Of the females, how many of them are pregnant, how frequently they're reproducing. And this tells us about how that population trajectory is changing over time. And then the last thing that we've started to incorporate are unmanned aerial systems or drones. And we use these to fly over animals to get an estimate of the length of the animal as well as the width. And the width of the animal tells us about its body condition, how healthy it is. And so we can look across months within a year and see at what point are the animals starting to put on weight. We know that they arrive in, let's say, December or January, and they stay until May. Well, how does the changes in behavior we see from our satellite tags relate to changes in how much the animals are gaining energetically? And do we see changes from year to year? If you have a very good ice year followed by a very poor ice year, do we see the condition of the animals reflected in that because there might be a change in the availability of their prey? So all of this information is sort of used to tell us about what the whales do. And we finally put that into play, trying to understand what the need is for conservation. Do we need to start setting aside areas for conservation because there may be a conflict between a commercial krill fishery and where the whales are foraging, or other kinds of things that humans do that we need to allow the whales to not be affected by?